Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen and viewers. Welcome to our September 11th regular council meeting. I call the meeting to order at 1 p.m. The added items to our agenda. I will start with added item number 1. We have item 3B, John Van Duesberg, Mountain View Regional Water Services Commission, and Chair Lance Colby. Correct, Mayor Lance Colby. And of course, Tim is along to answer any questions as well. So that is item number 1 for, and item number 2, I have a note to just share with all. To item number 5A, we had the wrong attachment in the package and have revised with the 2023 Alberta resolutions and provided to council by email. An agenda package on the website was revised and updated. Does council have any further added items? All right, seeing none then, I would ask for a motion, please, for the added items to be added to our agenda. Council Wilson?
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I'd make the motion that we adopt the regular closed council meeting agenda as amended for Monday, September 11th, 2023 at 1 p.m.
Okay, I'll accept that. However, I was looking for permission from all council members. Actually, I will leave it that way, to accept the added items as is. So that's what the motion will be. No questions? All in favor? That is carried. Now I will ask for a motion for the adoption of the agenda as amended. Councillor Walsh?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I move that we adopt the September 11th, 2023 agenda as been amended.
Thank you. I will then call for, yes, our legislative clerk, Marcy?
That's the second time you've made that motion then. Yeah, I think if you just, Councillor Walsh, if you withdraw it from the floor.
Because we've already accepted the items? That's fair. Thank you for your comment. Let's move down to item 2, please. And I'm looking for consensus, please, or consent for the adoption of the previous council meeting minutes of August 28th. Motion, please. Or, sorry, consensus? Thank you. We're good. Item 4, please, delegations and presentations. We do have a delegation today with Community Futures Central Alberta, and I will give the floor to our CEO, Williams.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. And with us today is Kelly Kerlick from Community Futures Central Alberta. Some of you who've been on CAPE before may recognize Kelly as a familiar face, but if not, probably the Community Futures brand, at least. Kelly is going to give us a bit of an overview on CF Central Alberta, and for me to provide just a quick Central Alberta, and for me to provide just a quick synopsis of what we've been doing with Community Futures lately. Our economic development strategy, as you know, is just getting started, and we've been looking for partners for a variety of means to provide us with better information, potential grant opportunities. And Kelly has been so kind to meet with myself and Sandra several times, I guess, certainly with Sandra, to discuss these things further. So she'll lead us through that with the lens that we are trying to build a more broad-based support, with a bit of a regional lens on our upcoming ED strategy. And then there's also an opportunity which Kelly will get into about the town participating at some capacity in the Community Futures Board as well, whether that could be a council appointee or an appointee from a member of administration. But that can come back to council in the October organizational meeting. And for now, I'll turn it back to Kelly to get started. Thanks for coming, Kelly.
Okay, everyone can hear me? Yes. Thank you, CAO Williams. Thank you, Mayor Dahl and Council for having me today. I understand I have about 15 minutes, so I'm going to give you a brief overview of the Community Futures Program and the impact that we have in your community as well as within the Central Alberta region, and some of the things that we do to help small business and entrepreneurs within the communities. So, and then I'll be open to some questions if you have any. So Community Futures is a national program. It's funded by the federal government, and we've been in existence since the 80s. There's 269 offices in Canada and 27 regional offices in Alberta. The purpose of Community Futures is for rural economic development. We are a rural organization, so for the federal government, that is considered any community outside of Calgary and Edmonton in Alberta. So our office is located in Red Deer, and you'll see later on in the presentation that we do cover a large area of Central Alberta. We're a nonprofit organization, and we're funded by Prairies Economic Development Canada, formerly Western Economic Development Canada. And we're guided by a board of directors who are comprised of a mix of elected officials and members at large. Our office currently employs 5 full-time employees. So you can see on the map behind me and in your package, we serve a population of around 200,000 people in Central Alberta, 2 First Nations, and in the green area of the map you can see the municipalities that we serve. Thank you, Marcy. So we offer, we wear 2 hats, and we offer 2 pillars of services to our communities. One is lending, and one is economic development through entrepreneur support, business development, partnerships with municipalities and other organizations. In terms of our loans, we offer small business loans to entrepreneurs most typically, and most of our clients at the startup stage. So if a client or an entrepreneur has a business idea, they don't know where to get support, they don't know where to get funding, if they don't fit within the traditional lending box through traditional financial institutions, they come to us. We're not in competition with banks, but we do offer that outside of the box lending to give those entrepreneurs a leg up at the startup stage. We also offer succession planning advice for exiting businesses, and at the growth stage if they're looking for loans for expansion as well. Our loans are up to $150,000, and the main source of our referrals is from the banks that know who we are. We do offer we work in partnership with the banks so that even if the bank can give them a loan through some of their programs, we can give them that leg up with working capital and that additional support through the business planning. So yeah, startups, expansions, new businesses, and expanding loans. So some of our unique lending programs, of course, through COVID, we offered the Regional Relief and Recovery Program, which were very similar to what the banks were offering for COVID relief loans through the Canada Emergency Bank Account loans, the CEBA loans. The RRF, or the Regional Relief and Recovery loans, were announced by the federal government. The Community Futures offices across Canada administered those loans, and those were for the more rural mom and pop businesses that fell through the cracks and didn't qualify through the CEBA loans. So we administered those programs, and we still have those on our books. We also offered the Alberta Women's Economic Recovery Capital Growth Initiative, and that is for post-COVID recovery for women entrepreneurs, and that is funded by the Alberta government. Some of our in-house sort of suite of regular program loans, we offer youth entrepreneur loans, which have less collateral requirements than our normal loans, and we offer entrepreneurs with disabilities loans for clients who struggle with barriers for self-disclosed health conditions or disabilities. Our impact in 2022-23, within our communities, we advanced loans in the amount of $624,000 to 14 clients within our region. The impact that these loans had were we created, maintained, or expanded 71 jobs through our lending. training participants and business advisory services, just over 800 clients we connected with in our last fiscal year. We engaged with 14 partners within our communities to deliver 16 community-based projects, and we served 671 clients. Our loan portfolio through our regular investment fund is just under 1.5 million. And we have a little pie chart which indicates the communities that we hold these loans in, 3 in the town of Olds, and we would like to expand on that. And a total of, I think we have 42 loan clients on our books right now. The COVID relief loans, like I mentioned, our current portfolio balance of those loans is just over 5 million. We advanced just under 7 million. Of course, we've had some repayments and some payouts on those, and we assisted 20 entrepreneurs and businesses in Olds, in the town of Olds, through that program. So that covered our lending. Our programs and services on the community economic development side are some of the business entrepreneur training programs that we offer. I won't go into the details of all of them because I don't have enough time, but our entrepreneur support programs include Smart Start, our EDP program, where we can allow and access funding to make one-on-one coaching available to the clients with disabilities to give them that leg up. So that is through the development of their business plan and execution of their business plan and one-on-one intensive coaching with those clients. We offer the Digital Service Squad program, which provides digital marketing services to businesses that want to expand into e-commerce or have more of a digital presence. We currently have 2 Digital Service Squad members out of our office. The Catalyst Early Stage Incubator is focused on manufacturing, technology, and agribusiness. And we have 2 cohorts per year that run through that program. And we offer one of our youth entrepreneur initiatives that we have is a youth camp for kids ages 13 to 15. Some recent programs that we've included that have since, or that I've included that have since concluded are business succession and matching, as well as an Indigenous women startup program that was funded by the federal government as well. Our community partners are many. The Central Alberta Regional Innovation Network, we're active members, and that is funded by Alberta Innovates. The Business Link, all of our municipalities within our regions, we try to connect with and work with as much as possible. Some of our programs are funded by the Alberta government. Red Deer Polytechnic and Olds College, of course, are in our region, so we work closely with those institutions. Of course, through our lending, banks and financial institutions, chambers of commerce, and our funder is Prairies Economic Development Canada. Our board of directors, currently we have 7 individuals on our board, and our combined membership represents, that would be members at large as well as municipally elected representatives on our board, Clearwater County, Sylvan Lake, Rocky Mountain House, Penhold, Red Deer, Didsbury, and Jarvis Bay. The role of our board is a governance board. Our terms are 3 years. We can do 3 consecutive 3-year terms, so up to 9 years. On our board, and yeah, we have a really strong board and key stakeholders that sit at our table. So we are currently recruiting board members, and we would like to have some representation from our South region, including Olds. We're just looking for expertise from the municipal level for those that want to make a difference in their communities and help local entrepreneurs. So if you have any questions or anything in regards to our bylaws or our board, we would be happy to answer those questions. You can reach out to our board chair, and his information is in your package, or myself. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. Very informational. I will open the floor to council if they so have questions. Yes, Deputy Mayor Ryan.
Thank you very much, Mayor Dahl. I just have one quick question with regards to the board of directors, and since CAO had mentioned about looking at adding a board member from our area, I'm just wondering, how many members can you have on your board? You have 7 right now. Do you have an up to?
Our bylaws say up to 16. 16? Yeah, yeah.
That is a big that's,
big
Yeah.
board.
that's a big
And our
board.
minimum is 4. So throughout my time with Community Futures, which has been since 2009, we've had up to 9 board members, anywhere from 7 to 9.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Wilson and then Councillor Cummings.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, and through you to Kelly, and thanks, Kelly, for the presentation. Just a quick question. You talked about the loans being a fairly large portion of the service the organization provides. And I know you're just starting to work with Sandra and the town around economic development or what potential that would look like. But I'm wondering, what would that look like? Like with your staff of 5, how potentially can you assist any rural community, and obviously in our case Olds, with economic development and growth?
And that is the challenge. The challenge is capacity within the office, and that's where we align ourselves as a partner and offer support through funding through Community Futures, not from our core funding, but there's opportunities through different entities within Community Futures and economic development that we have to apply for, and it's basically project-based funding. And that's where we align ourselves based on the size of our region and the number of municipalities that we serve. So we have to look at our strategic direction and what the board's priorities are. And the board's priorities are economic development through partnerships, and ultimately our driver is entrepreneurship and business development, and wherever we see fit and opportunity to work with our municipalities and our partners, that's where we will focus. Does that? Thank you.
You, Councillor Cummings.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I noticed in the presentation that you mentioned that the offices are in Red Deer, but your area of encompasses a great deal of
Yeah.
landscape.
Yeah.
Do your clients, the entrepreneurs, the potential entrepreneurs or businesses that want to develop a spin, I'm thinking this, I got Geek Squad stuck in my head, but that's not what it is. The Digital Marketing Services Squad?
Yeah.
You threw squad in there and
Yes.
I got stuck. Do the clients have to come into Red Deer, or can you do remote work, or do you have set up situations where there's office spaces to meet in the various
Right.
communities with say the municipalities or anything like that?
We don't have current space right now that we utilize within other municipalities, but the Digital Service Squad is a mobile squad. So we leave it up to the client, and there's options to work virtually with those clients or in our office, or they are mobile and they do go to the businesses on site. I will preface to say too, and I will indicate that the Digital Service Squad program serves a portion of our region, which does not include Olds. The Olds DSS is covered by, Sandra, is it I think it's the Didsbury Chamber. So we can connect. We still are open through our intake. If anybody outside of our region applies through Digital Service Squad to us, we connect them with the right services and the contract that's run out of that region. So for whatever reason, there was 2 applications for DSS, ours including the Didsbury Chamber, and the Chamber chose to run theirs independently. It's the same program, and we just make sure that the clients are served. Yeah, but they are mobile. And for our other entrepreneur services, like the one-on-one advisory services, I mean, we're mandated, we have to meet the clients and meet them, meet their needs and meet them where they're at, whether that be we travel to the businesses or they come to us. Yeah.
Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl, and again, through you to Kelly, just a quick question, and you mentioned you're not a bank, and you don't compete with the banks, but I'm just wondering, and you also mentioned you've got 1.5 million in loans. Is there a cap to your loan availability, or do you guys just have a bottomless pit that you could?
So the investment fund that we manage and that we lend to businesses is owned by the Community Futures office. So we manage that portfolio, and it has to be managed very closely in terms of growth and giving back. So of course, there's fees and there's interest rates that we have to grow that portfolio, but it isn't a never-ending, no, it's not never-ending, and it isn't government money. It's owned by our nonprofit organization. Yeah.
Further questions? Well, thank you very much for your presentation here today with us.
Thank you very
Right on time.
Good.
And I would entertain a motion, please. Yes, Councillor Daly.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I would like to move that council thank the delegation of Community Futures Central Alberta for attending and presenting to our council.
Thanks, everybody.
Very good. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much. Safe driving. All right, at this time, we have our added item 3B, Mountain View Regional Water Services Commission, and I'll turn it over to C.L. Williams for introductions.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl, and I'd like to invite Chairman of the Commission, Lance Colby, and John Van Doesburg, and even Tim Ainscott up to the microphone to, or wherever you want to sit at all.
Happy to have you come and introduce you. Actually, I will do some introductions. I don't think you know everybody in the room. This is your first time here. Of course, you know Councillor Blatt. She sits on your commission. You know Councillor Walsh. This is Councillor Daly. We've met years ago. And of course, you've met our CEO Williams, Councillor Cummings, Councillor Ryan, and Councillor Wilson. So thank you very much, gentlemen.
Forgot about that. As you know, I'm the chair of the commission, and today Tim Ainscott is here, and he's our director of operations, and John Van Doesburg, our CAO. Just here to give you an overview. We're invited by your council through Councillor Blatz, and we're here to give you a brief outline of what the commission is and how it works. I'm just, what I'd like to say is we had a request from the councils to try and get our budget through quicker, so that it would give you more time to put it into yours. And we hope to have the budget out, and we're pretty sure we can have it out by beginning of November, at the end of October, beginning of November, if everything goes right. There are a few things that we're not going to know as cost of living and a few things like that, but we should be able to come with a budget that'll be in close and give you something to work with prior to that. So what I'm going to do is turn it over to John first, and then Tim will come in after. And you can ask any questions you want, because they know all about it.
Okay, thank you, Lance. Lance knows a lot more than he's putting on here on it. So I'm just going to give a quick top over of the background of the MPA, and then Tim's going to train each one of you how to be an operator at the plant. That's his job today, because we keep looking for operators and we have a hard time. So that's Tim's job, is to find anybody like Darren, who is just now semi-retired. You know, Darren, you can come help us a bit there, you know, to help on it. So let's start with the background. We're named after Anthony Heney. I don't know, most of you guys know who Anthony Heney is, first explorer in the West. And I guess we were named that, the plant was named after that. The commission is the Mountain View Water Commission. It causes us problems at times, but that's the way she is. So maybe if we can just keep on going, Tim. So the plant itself was built in the 70s. It was in reflection of the communities at the time, all the communities from Innisfail all the way down to Crossfield, and even Airdrie at the time. Airdrie was supposed to be part of the commission. We're running out of poor water. Number one, volume of water, poor water, and economic development was really hurting the area. So the MLA at the time coerced the government to build a water plant on the Red Deer River, which we are right now, built the plant, and the government operated it at the time. They operated it from 77 to 92. 92, the commission took it over, and the commission was formed. The town of Old was a leader on that. There were 6 members. There was a few other people that were invited, but they decided not, and one of them, well, 3 of them were the county of Mountain View, the county of Red Deer, and the county of Rocky View. Did not want to become members because they thought it was a white elephant. And I think that's plagued them for a number of years since, but that was what it is. So we're independent. We're a standalone organization. We're covered in the Municipal Government Act in section under commissions. We have all kinds of independence from the communities. We have to run it like a business. We don't have the ability to surcharge the communities or, send you a bill at the end of the year for lows. We're told by the Government Act and our Board of Directors, you make a profit at this to pay through it. So since 1992, we've done almost $100 million of development and construction at the plant and stuff. And you wonder, why are we spending that much money on water? Well, the water business doesn't get easier. And Tim's going to go over that a little bit with you a little later here, and we're going to do that really quickly. But it's an always forever development update. And anybody that's been in, development knows that pumps break down, things get old, and you have to replace them. So that's what we do, and a lot of times you look at your water rate, what's that about? And this is what it is about. We have 6 members of the community, of which you're one of the founding members. Wanda's the member, Harvey was a member of the commission, and I guess Darren too. You guys should be up there helping us some days, we can help on it. But, that's the independence that we have. In reality, you're our bosses, because you got 1 member from each town, and that goes a long way on it. So maybe, Tim, the next slide. So now I turn it over to Tim, and Tim's going to go over the technical stuff. And if your eyes glaze over, just ask a question. What does this mean? So Tim, you want to start?
Thanks, John. So a little bit about the plant. When it was built in '77, it was a conventional treatment plant, coagulation, and then filtration. The Red Deer River, if you look at the raw water, the Red Deer River and its tributaries, the Little Red Deer and Medicine River, can be really terrible water in the spring. So in about 99, 2000, the treatment process transitioned to microfiltration, which at the time was the first one in Western Canada.
First one in Western Canada, yes.
And gives us the ability to treat. In fact, the treatment process come from wastewater, so it was originally used to treat wastewater, and then it was adapted to treat water, so it can treat some very nasty water. So the system designed about 27,000 cubic meters per day is what our pump house will produce. Our membrane system is about 27,000. Summer demands, we peak about 14,000 this year. Yesterday, I think we were at 9,800, so we're getting into that. By the time we get into August, September, people stop watering their lawn. We're getting into winter mode, and we're about 10,000 a day. So we're sitting about at peak about 50% capacity. So we have lots of capacity left.
Just to give you guys an example, your community uses about 3,000 to 3,500 cubes a day. So, and Innisfail is about the same number. So we're really built it of 3 parties. Innisfail, Olds, and the rest of the communities, they do buy it up. And that's our composition of water sales. So just to give you an idea of where you are and stuff like that. So Tim?
Okay, up is a little schematic of it. I won't get into a lot of detail. Basically, the water goes in. We screen it a couple times. We mix some chemical in, and then we pull it through the filter system, and I'll show some pictures on that. Then we put it into a storage tank, we chlorinate it, and then we pump it down the line.
This is where the technical stuff comes in. The questions will be at the end.
So if you look at the cassette on the right, we have 5 trains of 6 cassettes each. The cassettes have elements, and the elements are big. If you've ever had a chance to do a tour, the cassettes are full of what looks like a whole bunch of spaghetti, and it's basically straws. And you can see that in the left-hand picture how those straws relate to the size of a toonie. And there's just some pictures of our process area. So we use actually very minimal chemicals. We use polyhydroxy aluminum chloride, which is a coagulant, basically sticks everything together, and chlorine. Those are our 2 main chemicals. In the spring, when we get bad water, we can use potassium permanganate and powdered activated carbon, which will help reduce taste and odor. The rest of the chemicals we use on site is for cleaning our membranes. We use sodium hypochlorite to clean out inorganics and citric acid to clean out the organics. And then we use the caustic soda and the other ones to balance pH and hardness.
So as you see, we're not really at treatment. When you feel the treatment, all you do is clean it. We're actually a chemical process that works on the stuff. So the chemical that we ask is a chemical process. and we go through it. So it's a science. It isn't something that, you pick up over a day or two.
So these cassettes that we showed earlier, they're all immersed in water. And we have a pump that draws basically a negative pressure, so the dirty water hits on the outside. It's at a microscopic level, all the dirt and everything falls off, the clean water comes up the middle and then goes into our treatment system. Basically, this picture that is a blow up of what one of those little strings looks like. It's a microscopic, and it basically just filters it. Pulls it up, when it starts to build up, the pressure starts to increase, it back pushes a little water through, blows all the dirt off, it settles to the bottom of the tank and goes onto our holding ponds. Simple to explain, very complex system to operate with SCADA and all those different things, but the system works, and there are now a couple dozen of them in the province, but they are used to treat some of the worst water. We do that continuous backwash, so as the material sticks to it, gives it a little back pulse, pushes it off, and then we do what's called a recovery clean every 2 to 3 months. We take one of the 5 trains off, we do a deep clean, it takes 2 or 3 days, and it gets them looking brand new, and then they're good again now. So really our objectives is to meet and exceed current and future environment standards, which we do. We meet the water demands of our customer, and we provide consistent and aesthetically pleasing water regardless of the raw water. And this spring there was very little interruption, and it depends on how the spring goes. Some of the upgrades we're working at, so we have what are called the 500C. We're under contract with, it's now Viola. It's changed hands 5 or 6 times since 2000, but we're upgrading and changing out our membrane to a 500D, which will actually give us another 15% surface area, so a little bit more capacity. We'll get close to that, just about 30,000 cubes a day. We've got some large pumps that we're going to replace. They're 600 horsepower hard starts. We're going to change them to VFDs, which will reduce power consumption, which will in turn help reduce costs. And all of our electrical switchgear, majority of it is original from 1977, so we're looking at a project to change that out. Some of our long-term upgrades, clear well capacity, the midpoint reservoir here in Olds, and possibly move the intake out to Gleniffer Reservoir.
So, questions?
On the floor to council. Could you share, though, one thing? I recall a membrane in the past was about $100,000 for replacement. Has it gone?
It's going
Quite a
up
few.
lot. It's got a lot more.
Could you share what an estimate of a membrane would cost?
The commission pays, we go on a contract with Viola, which is an annual contract. So we pay, what was $380,000 last year? 400, okay, we're doing budget, he knows it better than I do. But that gives us, so it's 400, so it'll be about 4 million to 4.5 million to replace the membranes over a 10-year period. So we've done it kind of like on a payment plan, because, we just don't want to get into a process that all of a sudden in year 10, we've got to spend $4 million. So we
Lifespan on one membrane?
We're our second set of cassettes.
Yeah.
About 23 years, so it'll depend on water quality, but yeah, they budget for 10. We've stretched it out a little longer.
Thank you very much, and I'll open the floor to council for questions. For Tim or John? And, okay, we'll start with Councillor Walsh, and then we'll go to Councillor Cummings, and did you have your hand? And Councillor Ryan. Thank you.
I'm just curious, a while back, provincial government was threatening ultraviolet, implementing ultraviolet treatment. How's that working?
We are implemented.
Yeah.
They didn't threaten it anymore. We had to implement it. So you have 2 types of disinfection. When people say, how do you disinfect the water to make sure there's nothing in it? Well, we disinfect it with first ultralight, and then with chlorine, and then if we need to, we spike it up with more chlorine. I don't know, Tim, is anything else beyond that?
Yeah, no, as John mentioned, we are ultraviolet.
Yeah, that was a couple $1 million tag.
Yeah, ultraviolet kills it, chlorine then protects it down the line. ultraviolet that has no residual. So that's why the two process.
Thank you. We'll go over to Council Cummings.
Thank you, Mayor. Just curious, when you talked about the cleaning of the filters, you do the back flushing, then you do that deep clean every once in a while. Do you do that in-house, or is that something you're contracting with Viola to do outside of the facility?
No, it does it actually semi-automatic. The 3 trains in the old filter galleries, it does it on its own. The ones, the way it's set up in the round clarifier tank, I don't know if you want to, backwards, oop, wrong one.
Just right click, just use your right click. And then it'll give you an option to go back previous.
Oh, I have to go back. In the clarifier, the trains in there, we have to move them from one dip tank to the next to do the cleaning. So it's a little bit labor intense, but yes, we do it all in-house.
Councillor Ryan?
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. Just wondering about some of the construction work that you were showing. I don't know what slide that was. But, so the whole plant was built in 1977, so you're talking about over 40 years ago.
Yep.
Plus, so what about like a replacement of this whole plant, or is the work that you're doing with the pumps and the other things that you do, does that sort of maintain it and
it's a steady-
extend the life?
It's a steady period of upgrade. If it's one thing, like we're doing pumps, those pumps were graded 20 years ago. So we have timelines with our equipment, so we go on that timeline with it. We're very fortunate, the building is built like a bomb shelter. So, you know, it's a strong, structurally sound building, concrete. So the building itself doesn't, but the internal part of the mechanisms and everything get replaced. And like, you know, anything that's 45 years old and mechanical, and part of it is the electrical system. We've really not upgraded the electrical system. That has now become a priority. That'll be the next phase. And the board of directors has been really good. Lance has been helping lead with it. They've allowed us to keep putting money into capital, so we don't run into that big, all of a sudden, whoa, what's happening now? So part of the rates that you do is the development of the capital to keep upgrading.
Thank you very much. It looks like we've got 2 more questions on this side. We'll start with Wilson and Councillor Cummings.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl, and through you to John and Tim, and thanks for the presentation. And I think, John, you partly addressed the question through Councillor Ryan, but I was going to ask you, from your perspective and the sleepless nights, and what are the threats and the risks for the plant? And what are the limitations? You know, we've been very sort of supportive of economic development and growth. I know that hinges on, you know, certainly water supply and consumption and the type of industry that comes, but what's the ability of the plant to handle growth in Olds and in the surrounding area? And what are the threats, risks that you see?
Yeah. If you look at our water policies, it was recently developed, we have a lot of capacity at the plant. We have a lot of pumping capacity now. We can get water, especially to Olds. We can get a lot of water to you guys in a hurry. We have 2 major lines coming to Olds, and we have, our pinch point will be to the south, because we only have 1 line from here to Disbury, but then we've twinned the lines all the way. So, you know, we're really building in redundancy, like you said. And in terms of economic development, like, we've got enough surplus to deal with the present. What we do, and again, it's a planning thing. We have to work 10 years ahead. And that's why your economic development officer, I don't see her here today. Oh, there she is, there she is. She's worked with us, and she's, you know, she's asking us questions, which is great to hear. We just don't like the surprises, you know, when all of a sudden somebody says, we need 2,000 cubes of water, and we go, well, that's nice, but we can handle that, and we can work with the communities. But the board has said very, very strongly to me as administrator, the commission members first. They're the people that put the money in the system. They're the people that invested in the system and had it come through for a number of years. Like we said, I was there at the initial start of it. That's how old I am. And there was this opportunity for other municipalities, and they just walked away from it. You know, it was supposed to be a big white elephant, but it's turned out to be a pretty good elephant in terms of what it's done for the communities. You know, you got some of the lowest water rates in Alberta for big communities. So, that's hard to explain to the communities when they're paying their water bill, but, like for the size of our plant and everything, we give a pretty good economical product to the people. And we're pretty happy with the quality of water too. I can tell you the quality of waters, Edmonton and Calgary and Red Deer don't put in charcoal to take out the taste. We do, because that's part of our process. It's part of our customer relations program.
Thank you, John. I certainly like the water. Councillor Cummins?
Thank you, Mayor. So I do have two kind of completely unrelated questions, so we'll see if the mayor will forgive me on this one. But the first question, you talked about consumption and capacity, that your consumption is, I think, was 14,000 cube, and your capacity was 27. The membrane upgrade will take that to closer to 30. Then you mentioned again a little bit about moving the capacity to move the water, especially to Olds, and not beyond Olds, but then kind of after Olds, that little bottleneck sort of thing. And then the license. So we know that there's a license to draw water from Red Deer River for each of for the commission, right? The commission has that license, right? Not each
For the
town
commission
or
members,
municipality.
yes.
I'm going to take a guess because your numbers from usage to capacity were significantly great. That's an awesome scope or gap to see. How big of a gap is it from the license to the capacity to the usage?
We're only using about 40% of our license if we get up to today's standards. So we have a huge capacity of that. We have a senior license on the Red Deer River, which entitles us to water all the time. We don't have a junior license. A lot of communities got junior license because they were instituted after 1982 and the dam. So we have a big license. We have a lot of leeway in that license, and the government has let us work with that. Now, we have to be very honest. If a new member, somebody new comes on the line, and they're not a new member, and they're not something like, and we'll talk about it right now, maybe Lance, you want to talk about this as well. If a development goes on your borders, our policy is we won't sell them water unless it's one of our members. So, you have the control, even in the policy with it is any attempt to sell water within 10 kilometers of your boundary, you have the veto power. Each member has that. So you as a member can have, we're not out in isolation. But if you develop it with your neighbor with Mountain View County, you've got to remember you got to come to the commission board somewhere along the line and talk about it. And make sure you know what the numbers are, because there's a member's rate and there's a non-member's rate.
Certain that they're aware of that as well.
Okay, good.
C.L. Williams has a question for you, John.
Sorry to interject there, but thank you, Mayor Dahl. I did hear, and I don't have much evidence to substantiate this, but the province can override that veto power that commissions do give their members. I believe the instance was from the John S. Batook Commission, if I recall correctly, perhaps for Heartland Development. Are you familiar with anything that would...
Well, the province, we're an agent, we're the same as you as the province. The Minister of Municipal Affairs can make a ministerial act, and that controls us. Like, we're governed by the Municipal Government Act, so he can come forward and do that. Now, some communities have combated this system by becoming a corporation. But again, they have to go through the Municipal Government Act, and in every corporation document I've said, the Minister of Municipal Affairs can overrule anything in this. So they're the same as you, we're the same as you. We have to abide by what the minister says. But the government has been very good. Like, there's been many lobbying events to get membership on this board. And each time the board and the communities have said no, the Minister of Municipal Affairs has agreed with that opinion. So I think that's some assurance for you that, this is probably one of the longest running water commissions in Alberta, and it's probably one of the largest asset ones in Alberta. And I think we are the largest asset of Alberta. So, there's you have a lot of strength with the government. We're not little boys running around, with pails of water. We're pretty sophisticated in what we're doing.
Have to wind this down quickly. Last question from Councillor Cummings.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So the other question I had there was, John, you were, I'm going to say probably not jokingly, talking about staffing and some issues that you were having there. Can you
Well,
maybe fill us
it
in a
is
little bit on
between
that
Tim and me. We're seeing a need for people to get in the water field, especially in the rural areas of Alberta. Like when we have, like we went through, like Tim maybe explained last time, we were looking for somebody.
We hired in March of this year. We advertised in January. We had a number of resumes, very few of which were qualified. We shortlisted to 4. We interviewed 4. We offered it the first one. We offered it the second one. Took about 4 before we were able to get someone. And we're a fairly large plant. Some of the smaller communities that are trying to run their own plant are really struggling. So if you know someone young who's looking for a career path, water and wastewater there's lots of opportunities out there. But we're able to, with what we have, we've got backup redundancy. So if somebody quit on us tomorrow, we wouldn't be in an issue.
Yeah. Like there's 14 employees at the commission administratively. Three of us are part-time, and then we have 11 full-time employees. Of those 11 other full employees, all those employees can run the plant, at some level. So, because we've cross-trained people to do stuff because we're not that big. If I go down, Tim takes over a lot of my duties and 1 or 2 of the other people down. Tim goes down, we all have to share the duties. We're not that deep where we have to work with each other, know what the other person is doing.
And I understand you have some long-standing members, and congratulations for that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for your time with us today, gentlemen. I really appreciate the updates, and I'm sure council certainly has appreciated getting to see your face and know you now. And I would entertain a motion from our council, please, to accept. Councillor Blatz?
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that we thank the council thanks the delegation from the Mountain View Regional Water Commission for coming and presenting to council and giving us a very informative update on your processes and procedures.
Very good. Safe travels.
So Darren, you can come down.
Water business is an emergency business. So once again, thank you very much and safe travels. There's a motion on the floor. I'll call for the vote. Those in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much. We'll move down to bylaws now on page 25 of your agenda, please. Item 4A, this is a bylaw 2023-21 general penalty bylaw. It's a new bylaw for the process of municipal violation tickets relative to the contravention of a provision of a Town of Olds bylaw. Anything further you'd like to add?
No, not at this time. Director Andrew couldn't make it today, but Marcy's here if you have any further questions on this. But it looks as it looked last Monday, or last Tuesday, rather.
Very good. We're going to move forward then. And for the general penalty bylaw, I'm asking for first reading, please. Councillor Ryan?
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that the general penalty bylaw 2023-22 be given first reading.
Thank you. And before we move to the further down, I will ask if there's questions on first reading. All right, I'll call for the vote. Those in favor? That's carried. Second reading, please. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I make the motion that the general penalty bylaw 2023-22 be given second reading.
Thank you. I'll call for the vote. Those in favor? That's carried. I'm looking for consent. Thank you. Councillor Walsh?
Thank you, Mayor. I move that general penalty bylaw 2023-22 be given unanimous consent for presentation for third reading.
Thank you, Councillor Walsh. I will call for the vote. Those in favor? That is carried. Third and final reading, please. Councillor Blatz? Oh, sorry.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that the general penalty bylaw 2023-22 be given third reading.
Thank you. I'll call for the vote. Those in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much. We will move down to page 29, item 4B. And these are two bylaws, bylaw 23 and 24, Community Peace Officer bylaw and bylaw officer bylaw. Before we start, is there any changes or any additions, C.O. Williams?
No, nothing I'd like to add at this time.
You very much. So we're looking right now then at bylaw 2023, Community Peace Officer, first reading, please. Councillor Daly.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that council accept the bylaw 2023-23, the Community Peace Officer bylaw, be given first reading.
You, Councillor Daly. I will ask for the vote at this time. Those in favor? That's carried. And second reading, please. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I make the motion that bylaw 2023-23, the Community Peace Officer bylaw, be given second reading.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. I call for the vote. Those in favor? That's carried. And I'm looking for unanimous consent for third reading. Okay, and Councillor Blatz.
Sorry. Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that bylaw 2023-23, the Community Peace Officer bylaw, be given unanimous consent for presentation of third reading.
Thank you, Councillor Blatz. Call for the vote. Those in favor? That's carried. And third and final reading, please. Councillor Ryan.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that bylaw 2023-23, the Community Peace Officer bylaw, be given third reading.
Thank you, Councillor Ryan, Deputy Mayor Ryan. Sorry, you're new deputy and you're facing that way and I can't see your name, but thank you very much. Those in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much. And we're going to 4B 2023-24. This is our bylaw officer bylaw. First reading, please. Councillor Blatz?
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that bylaw 2023-24, the bylaw officer bylaw, be given first reading.
Thank you, Councillor Blatz. Those in favor? That's carried. Second reading, please. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that the bylaw 2023-24, the bylaw officer bylaw, be given second reading.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. Those in favor? That's carried. Councillor Daly for consent, please.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that bylaw 2023-24, the bylaw officer bylaw, be given unanimous consent for presentation of third reading.
Thank you, Councillor Daly. I'll call for the vote. Those in favor? Thank you. Councillor Cummings, third and final reading.
Sorry, which bylaw are we on, 24, 23? That's correct. 24, thank you. I move that bylaw 2023-24, the bylaw officer bylaw, be given third reading.
Thank you, Councillor Cummings. I will call for the vote. Those in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much. Page 41, please, of your agenda. And this is item 4C. Bylaw 2023-28, Economic Development Action Committee bylaw. Mr. C.O. Williams, is anyone speaking before we put this on the floor?
Just myself, Mayor Dahl. Council saw this last Tuesday and a change was made to one section and I got to thinking, always dangerous. Council doesn't obviously have to accept it at this point, but given Councillor Walsh's change at the PMP meeting was around the committee composition, that they, from living in the town of Olds to being regional, my thought was that there's several sections in the bylaw that all say the town of Olds, focusing on the town of Olds, economic development of the town of Olds. I would propose a slight amendment of council's agreeable just to after the town of Olds in those sections, and I think I can highlight one or two of them for you. Olds and area, kind of more of a simple grammatical amendment, but does kind of, I think, change the focus to what we intended to, but didn't add, but what Councillor Walsh kind of highlighted with his composition. So I believe it's only in 3 or 4 parts, but I think just as amended motion, we could make those slight language changes and not change any other materiality in this bylaw, but just for council consideration at this point.
Thank you. Does anyone want to ask any questions further before we go for first reading? Thank you. Would you like to make first reading, Councillor Walsh?
Thank you, Mayor. I move that bylaw 2023-28, the Economic Development Action Committee bylaw, be given first reading. As amended, yes.
As amended to add Olds and area? That's correct? Is that fair? Very good. I will call for the vote. Those in favor? That's carried. And second reading, please. Councillor Blatz.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that bylaw 2023-28, the Economic Development Action Committee bylaw, be given second reading as amended.
Thank you. I will call for the vote. Those in favor? That is carried. And consent, Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I make the motion that bylaw 2023-28, the Economic Development Action Committee bylaw, be given unanimous consent for presentation of third reading as amended.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. Those in favor? That's carried. And third and final reading, Councillor Daly.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that council accept the bylaw 2023-28, the Economic Development Action Committee bylaw, be given third reading as amended.
Thank you, Councillor Daly. Those in favor? That is carried. Very good. We will now move down to page 48, please, and this is item 4D. And this is the bylaw 2023 Subdivision Authority bylaw for all 3 readings. C.R. Williams.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. And if council needs further clarification, Planner Sloan is with us as well. There's actually 3 bylaws here that are on the same matters. Technically, 3 bylaws plus 4 bylaws, if you can include the repeal bylaw, sorry. This is a bit of housekeeping that when council decided to move away from PCPS, Parkland Community Planning Services, we did have in our statutory bylaws authorities around subdivision approvals authority and development approval authority vested with PCPS, and these bylaws just seek to clean that up to say that subdivision is now the process is vested with administration, and things such as extensions are now with administration, and council is still obviously remains the subdivision authority. The following bylaw, the development authority, that is to vest that approval with council, taking away from MPC. So we obviously go through these individually, but if questions come up, Kyle is here with us as well.
Thank you very much. Kyle is our municipal planner. Thank you for being with us in the gallery today, and I'll ask then to start with first reading. Councillor Ryan.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that bylaw 2023-29 be given first reading as presented.
Thank you, Councillor Ryan. I'll call for the vote. Those in favor? That's carried. Would you like to do second, Councillor Cummings?
I move that bylaw 2023-29 be given second reading as presented.
Thank you, Councillor Cummings. Those in favor? That's carried. And consent, or I'm sorry, yes, consent for third reading. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I make the motion that bylaw 2023-29 be given unanimous consent for third reading.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. Those in favor? That's carried. And third and final reading, please, Councillor Daly.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that bylaw 2023-29 be given third reading as presented.
Thank you, Councillor Daly. I call for the vote, please. Those in favor? That's carried. All right, page 53, please, of your agenda. And this is item 4E and bylaw 2023-30 for the Development Authority, as C.O. Williams has explained. Again, we have our municipal planner here if there's questions, and I would start with first reading. Councillor Blatz.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that bylaw 2023-30 be given first reading as presented.
Are there any questions? All right, I'll call for the vote. Those in favor? That's carried. Second reading, please. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I make the motion that bylaw 2023-30 be given second reading as presented.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. I will call for the vote. Those in favor? That's carried. Councillor Walsh for consent.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that bylaw 2023-30 be given unanimous consent for third reading.
Thank you, Councillor Walsh. Those in favor? That's carried. And third and final reading, Councillor Ryan.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that bylaw 2023-30 be given third reading as presented.
Thank you. I will call for the vote. Those in favor? That's carried. Page 56, please. Again, this is bylaw 2023, the repeal bylaw. I believe C.O. Williams has also noted this to us previously, so we will go ahead and start with first reading. Councillor Walsh.
Yeah, I would like to move that the repeal bylaw 2023-31 be given first reading as presented.
Thank you, Councillor Walsh. Are there any questions to start? All right, no questions, and then I will call for the vote. Those in favor? That's carried. And second reading, Councillor Daly.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that the repeal bylaw 2023-31 be given second reading as presented.
Thank you, Councillor Daly. I will call for the vote. And those in favor, that's carried. And consent for third reading, Councillor Blatz.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that the repeal bylaw 2023-31 be given unanimous consent for third reading.
Calling the vote for those in favor. That's carried. Thank you. We will move to page 50. Oh. Third and final reading, please. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I make the motion that the repeal bylaw 2023-31 be given third reading as presented.
Thank you for that, Councillor Wilson. Those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Page 58, please. Item 4G. And I'm going to ask again if Kyle Sloan, our municipal planner, would like to speak to this. Thank you.
Thanks, Mayor Dahl. Yeah, I think it's appropriate Kyle introduce this one, even though it's just first reading.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Yes, this bylaw is for first reading and to set public hearing for an ASP amendment to the Vistas Area Structure Plan. The developer has approached us seeking this amendment to change one of their phases from R1 to R2 or R3 because either would allow for duplex or townhome development, which is what they intend. This would result in an increase in dwelling density in the vistas, so there's some changes in the area structure plan for those calculations. But actually, since 2006, when the plan was first created, the projected population is lower despite that because there are fewer people per household in the most recent census. The other change in this amendment is adding a secondary option for water looping, so then to allow for another outside connection on the water. The second or the new proposed route that's added here is to the west, basically straight along where Vista Drive will continue west out of this ASP. Any questions?
Thank you for that update, Kyle. And I will ask council if you have any questions to the changes. It is first reading only. All right, we're going to move forward. Thank you. First reading for bylaw 2023-32, please, as presented. Councillor Blatz.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that council give first reading to bylaw number 2023-32 as presented.
Thank you for that, Councillor Blatz. I would ask then those in favor. That's carried. Councillor Daly, would you like to set the public hearing date?
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that council sets Tuesday, October 10th, 2023 at 1 p.m. in council chambers as the date, time, and place for the public hearing on bylaw 2023-32.
Thank you, Councillor Daly. Those in favor? That's carried. And thank you for your time and explanations on that, Planner Sloan. Moving to page 88, this is item 4H, bylaw 2023-33, Mountain View Power Committee bylaw. I would just like to ask our CAO if there's any updates.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. And this bylaw is in complement to the policy that Council's already passed on community grants, and basically seeks just to establish a committee, which the policy does speak to, of, I believe, up to 7 at-large appointees whose only general requirement for eligibility is that they be Mountain View Power customers. The purpose of this committee is to adjudicate applications with the support of town administration and make recommendations to council, looks like twice per year, on which application should be funded. So if you recall, perhaps in the spring, I believe it was, that the intent was to kind of provide a layer of separation, perhaps depoliticize some of the optics of the Mountain View Power funds that are generated. So hopefully this bylaw captures that. I believe this is the first time of you seeing it, so it's fresh language, but old intention. Happy to make any adjustments that may make it better. We do hope to have the fall MVP grant application open by October 2nd or 3rd, whatever the first Monday or Tuesday of that week. So it's somewhat timely, but not terribly urgent either. So.
Yeah, I believe we've had some discussion with council on this. We could open it if you do have any questions for our CAO. Otherwise, I'm asking for first reading. Councillor Ryan?
I do have questions. Do you want first reading before, Ed, or would you like me to ask a question?
Would like a question prior to.
Fair enough. Thank you very much, Mayor Dahl. Appreciate that. And thank you, CEO Williams, for saying that's up to 7, because it doesn't say in here the committee, what will the numbers be? And that was my first question. So I think we need to make sure that we put this in there in writing, that the committee shall be appointed and have the size determined up to 7 people, putting it in there in writing. And also, you would also mention about not politicizing, so I would imagine we don't want any councillors on this, and I think that if that's the case, then we should put that in writing as well. It does say members appointed to the committee will not receive remuneration, so that's good. But it doesn't say about council members on there, so I think we need to make sure that we have that listed, or just say public at large only, something like that, so that it's clear. And I do have a couple of other questions, so I just want to make those couple of points first off and turn it over to anybody else with questions.
Our legislative clerks, okay. A response from our CAO. If not, we'll move to Councillor Cummings.
Yeah, on the first point, yes, I think up to 7, easy input. On the second point, yeah, discretion of council. Council isn't prohibited from sitting on it, because that's the point Marcy had in there that I deleted from 3.4, just on council remuneration. But my thought was to leave it open in case council wanted that, but if council prefers public at large only, then that addition is fairly straightforward. So.
Thank you, Councillor Cummings.
Thank you, Mayor. Along the same lines as Councillor Ryan, correct me if I'm not mistaken, normally in the bylaws that set up a committee, we have a complete composition in terms of service, how long the members are going to be appointed for, who appoints them, when they get appointed, how they get appointed. This bylaw doesn't seem to have any of that regular information that we'd have in a bylaw about the committee. So I'm not too sure if this bylaw is ready to be voted on today without any of that information in there. We 1 term, 2 terms, 1 year, 3 years appointed at the October meeting, all that stuff that is normally in a bylaw about the makeup of a committee. I can see past the fact that there's no terms of reference because that'll be developed by the committee, I'm sure, as it's created, but the general makeup of the committee, I don't want to go into details because there's a lot of things I'm sure Councillor Ryan has more specifics about that composition issue, but I'd like to see this come back with more details on the composition of the committee, the structure of the committee, and the committee membership.
Sorry, did you have a question, Councillor Daly?
To comment, also the numbering and just the housekeeping seems to be out of order as far as the items underneath the major titles.
I think if I would like to, yeah, I think what we should do at this point then is if I could get a consensus and a motion to bring this back to administration. Is there a consensus to bring this back for clarity? Okay, it looks like we have consensus. So can I get a motion to have this brought back to council then? Thank you, Councillor Ryan.
Thank you very much, Mayor Dahl. And I just moved the bylaw 2023-33, the Mountain View Power Committee bylaw, be brought back for additional information and for presentation at a later date.
You? Do you need more clarity on that? Thank you. Very good. I'll call for the vote. Those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. We'll move down to new business, please. Page 92. I would like to note, please, that there were new 2023 resolutions. Please delete what you had in your agenda. And if you have any questions, if not, they're pretty straightforward. We've received the package already. Some may have read them. The only note I will say is that the Town of Olds will be seconding the B10 Town of Sundre resolution, expand capacity to train combined laboratory and X-ray technologists for rural Alberta. So if there's no further questions, may I get a motion? Councillor Blatz.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that council accepts for information the administrative input on the Alberta Municipalities 2023 resolutions for the fall convention as presented.
Thank you, Councillor Blatz. Councillor Deputy Mayor Ryan, did you have a question?
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. No, actually, I just had a comment, if that's okay.
Please.
Thank you. I just wanted to say thank you to our legislative clerk for putting this together. There seems to be quite a few resolutions that we could have moved or seconded because there's quite a few that are directly affecting our community, and I applaud Alberta Munis for actually coming to the table with all the other municipalities are coming to the table with so many good resolutions this year. Just thought I wanted to point that out.
I concur. It'll be a very good listening and learning experience for sure. So we have a motion from Councillor Blatz on the floor. I will call for the vote. Those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Page 96 now, please, of your agenda, item 5B, and this is policy 901C, recreational facilities and sports fields use. Is there any additions to this at all, C.O. Williams?
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. Nothing the council hasn't seen last week, but just to provide recap on the purpose of this amendment. A bit of clarity and housekeeping happened, obviously, but the primary intent was to better manage a shoulder season use at the Sportsplex specifically. That's best captured in section 2.2 that just says that shoulder season use will be managed by administration, and the purpose of that largely, which even though it does include all facilities outside the sportsplex, is to try to increase the utilization and therefore the revenue of those facilities, which we haven't been able to achieve in the past for various reasons. So that's the primary intent of this amendment, just to recap for our viewers at home. But it looks the same as it did at PMP.
Thank you for that update. I would ask then for a motion on the floor. Councillor Walsh.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that council approve the revised policy 901C, recreational facilities and sport fields use, as presented.
Are there any further questions? I'll call for the vote. Those in favor? That is carried. Page 102, item 5C, bylaw 2023-22, public hearing date amendment request. Go ahead, CAO Williams.
And slight housekeeping on this one. We just missed a advertisement deadline in the newspaper, so we're asking that council reestablish the public hearing for October 10th instead. And just as a note on future mitigation, this happens somewhat frequently, 2 times this year, I believe. We do want to bring forward, probably in the form of an advertising bylaw, trying to break away that land use component to give us more avenues than just the newspaper to advertise such things in. For example, our utility mailouts could be an avenue, with social media and the website being secondary. But just this is the baseline for the MGA right now is in a local newspaper for 1 to 2 consecutive weeks. So we're looking at ways to streamline that as well. But for now, we got caught a little bit asking for council to reset this date.
This will be our second public hearing on October 10th. Councillor Cummings, you have a comment or a motion? Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I move that council sets Tuesday, October the 10th, 2023 at 1 p.m. in council chambers as the date, time, and place for a public hearing on bylaw 2023-22.
We have a motion from Councillor Cummings. I call for the vote. Those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Page 103, item 5D, Olds Fiber Limited Unanimous Shareholder Agreement Amendment. And our CEO has the information on here. Go ahead, CEO Williams, if you'd like to update.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. As brought forward at PMP in closed session and then riser report, this RFD proposes to amend the current unanimous shareholders agreement with Olds Fiber Limited. It would require a matching approval by that board of directors, which ought not to be a problem since this largely came from them as well. Marcy, if you can scroll to page 108 in the package first, we'll start there. Sorry, close enough, the yellow part. So this is the proposed language to change, to allow one town councillor to be appointed to the board at one time, and that the town council should not serve as chairperson. The ineligibility still stands. It's just broken out into section B. Fairly straightforward, but there's one other thing. If Marcy, you can scroll to that blue highlight to several pages down, right there. This is just more of a question for council. This was missed in the first part. The shareholder shall always select the chair of the board from the directors. I'm just asking if council wishes to keep this in. Certainly efficient, I guess, if council is the ones choosing on behalf of the board, but I'm not sure which level of oversight council wishes to have with the MCC board. It's something to discuss, I believe. Just
The 2 items, 2 changes that our CEO is recommending. Councillor Walsh, do you have a comment to that?
Yeah, I think in the past, good practice is to allow the board choose their own chairperson. They know best what people they have on their board and who they like to work with. I'm just from history, appointing somebody from a body outside can lead to conflict. I just think it would be better to have the board itself choose its own chair, maybe on an annual basis, and recommend maybe to council, but not the council choosing.
Councillor Walsh, we have Deputy Mayor Ryan, and then Councillor Cummings.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I actually had argued against you having that clause in there in the first place, so I would be happy to see that removed. I agree, we could maybe make a recommendation, but I do believe the board should have the freedom to nominate or elect their own chairperson. And I do have a question for C.A. Williams with regards to page 108. We have A1, I guess it is, have one current counselor who shall not be eligible to sit as a chairperson. We have a current counselor who is the chairperson. So is this something going forward, or what's the idea behind this particular item? And I just want to preference that I know that a lot of the committees that we have suggest that a counselor should not chair, but in this case, we already have that.
Go ahead.
Thank you. So I guess 2 points. This was the direction I feel received from P&P last week, that you'd like some language included. On the logistics of it, since October 31st in this USA is kind of the second board transition, that's when I figured taking effect. So following essentially, maybe not the upcoming board meeting when that be scheduled, but certainly by not long after October 31st of this year, that's when the board should be expected to have their own chairperson in place.
Thank you for the clarification.
Thank you for that clarity, C.O. Williams. Now, Councillor Cummings.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So the highlighted stuff in 108 is fine for me. That blue highlighted area there, though, it's kind of confused. It's an iffy one for me, because I do understand that shareholders in general, in a corporate board setting, do have they are the ones who assign or appoint, it might be by recommendation or not, the president of the board of directors, or in our case, the chair of the board of directors. I would rather see us, the shareholders shall appoint the chairman of the board on the recommendation of the board of directors, as opposed to us unilaterally doing it or them unilaterally doing it. So there's some cohesion, at least some ability to say, what the hell, that's the wrong decision entirely, and that's not the direction the shareholders want to go in, or that's not the direction that the board of directors would like to go into. So I would rather see that amendment read, the shareholder shall appoint the chairman of the board of directors on the direction, or on the nomination of the board of directors, something along those lines, rather than the recommendation, and allow them to decide who they want to lead, but at least allow us to then verify or ratify that. And normally those things are ratified at AGM. I'm not sure if there's somewhere in here where that ratification process at the annual general meeting for the shareholder to ratify is in there as well, because that's, again, another corporate policy, corporate procedure in the Corporations Act, that a chairman position would always be ratified at an AGM.
So what we're hearing then, it seems, did you get full clarity? It seems around the table that we have pretty well a consensus. Okay, so in the motion then, can we put as amended rather than as presented? And our CAO will reflect that. Very good. I would ask for a motion, please. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I make the motion that council approve the updated unanimous shareholder agreement between the Town of Olds and Olds Fiber Limited as amended.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. We've all heard what we're amending, and I will call for the vote. Those in favor? That is carried. Good conversation. Page 121, please. And we do have our Development Officer Sherry with us, I see, in the audience. So 5E, item development permit DP 23-134, and I'd ask Sherry to speak to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, Council, CAO Williams. This application is for a business support services, which is a personal service establishment, which will consist of janitorial office with some non-toxic supplies for that business. This is located in a direct control district, and it is a discretionary use where council is the development authority. Since it's located on 2 parcels with separate titles and different uses, there are some considerations that we'd like council to consider. This one is the building where the old gym was going to go, the fitness center, which would be directly below this on floor 103. The condition remains outstanding, that the owner consolidate the 2 lots into 1 lot to ensure that there is property protection. The permit has not been canceled, and it has not expired. The owner was given until July 31st, 2023, and this has not been dealt with. So we'd like to recommend that get added to this condition and carry forward.
Well, thank you for sharing that, and I'd ask council at this time if you have questions for our development officer. Councillor Cummings?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So, Cheryl, I was a little confused here. This is a separate business operating in the back of that business like the gym was going to, but it is because I kind of got confused. Is it just a room that this business is building back there for its janitor services, or is it a completely separate business and entity, and we're just looking for a change of use of that particular business from what we had proved earlier as a gym to a janitorial services system?
This business will be located on the 2nd floor, and on the 1st floor was going to be the gym. When that was presented and approved, the condition stated that it needed to have a consolidation of those lots to ensure overall building protection for all future uses. Without that, we can't ensure that there's proper building protection.
Thank you for that. Second question, Councillor Cummings?
That's more of a supplemental, sorry. I understand the need for the consolidation of the building for fire safety codes. It wasn't anything to do with my question, though. My question was about simply, is this a change of use of a portion of the building used by the business, or is this a separate business altogether?
This is a separate business and a change in use.
Very good, thank you once again. Any other questions, please? Seeing none, then I'd ask for a motion. Councillor Blatz?
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that council approve development permit application 23-134 as presented, subject to the conditions listed in the attached draft development permit.
Thank you, Councillor Blatz. I will then call for the motion. Those in favor? That's carried. Thank you for the clarity for that. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Item 6, please. Page 132. This is our CAO, Mr. Williams' report. I'll hand it over to CAO Williams.
Thank you again, Mayor Dahl. I just had 2 quick items. One is the budget survey, which is open for another week or so. As of this morning, we had 243 submissions, which is trending above average, and we're hoping to get even more in these final days. We've had a few strategic, cheeky Facebook posts scheduled, and hopefully that drives some more traffic towards it. Great feedback so far, though. The second thing, Oldstoberfest is this weekend, as we're well aware. For council information and for anyone listening at home, we will be blitzing as best we can on the parking and traffic accommodation issues we will face this weekend. Oldstoberfest kicks off large scale on Friday, which is also coinciding with the construction on 52nd Street, past the arena and the library, which will pinch a bit of traffic and take away some parking. Other events happening this week will add to that. We do have the Grizzlies home opener. I believe it's Saturday, along with a corresponding tailgate party for the evening. Could be Friday as well. I can't remember the exact date. The Grizzlies home opener. There's also some minor hockey, conditioning and selection camps happening at the Sportsplex this weekend as well. including on Friday. And there's also a softball tournament, OR Hedges, happening this weekend. So we're taking some traffic accommodation measures with signage to be put up to make, for example, heading east of the south side of the Sportsplex eastbound only from the gate at OES, starting from there on 53rd Street, and then advertising what parking we have available. Perhaps the lot behind Sims is not the best given the construction, but the current Uptown lot, the ZEC property, OES has agreed to, Chinook's Edge has allowed us to advertise parking there, and encouraging people primarily to park and walk whenever possible. That trying to find parking on 54th Street, for instance, or at the arena is not going to be an easy task this weekend. It will be congested. It will be busy. So it doesn't happen very often, but town will be bustling this weekend. So we encourage everyone to be safe and patient and safe. So that's all I had for this report.
PCO Williams, I'm happy to hear the results jumped quickly for the town budget survey, and I thank all council for the walkabouts that we did with the cards that were provided to us for the budget survey. I'm sure that had a lot to do with it. People were saying to me, oh, we filled our budget survey, and so it was very effective. Thank you all for that. And one question with regards to the weekend that you just spoke about. Do we have enhanced policing at all for these events?
Thank you for the question. Yes, as in previous years, the town's primary contribution outside of its $10,000 support grant has been with paying for police overtime, essentially. So I'm not sure the exact number of officers. I think it's generally based on hours, but 3 to 4 RCMP officers will be in attendance at the event. However, they're generally not on traffic accommodation measures. We also have our town CPOs obviously there as well, but trying to coordinate so many different areas of potential traffic pinch points is proving to be probably a bit more effort than we can provide right now. So the police that we are employing for overtime this weekend will be responsible largely for public safety and crowd control and the like. So.
Thank you. If there's no further questions, I would ask, okay, Councillor Cummings.
Thank you, Mayor. I do have a question and a comment. So with regards to the challenges on parking and traffic, kind of a good thing in a way. We're so busy in our town that we are having traffic issues. It may be a good thing and that it's coming to light, and hopefully it's only because of the construction that's being done and not systemic. So I'm kind of happy about that. But I do have a question with the community showcase that we attended last week. Did we keep track of attendance at the community showcase this year? And historically, it just seemed anecdotally to me that this year's attendance at the community showcase was much greater than last year's. But of course, I don't rely on anecdotal information at all. I'm just wondering if we did keep track, and if we have kept track historically, so that we can see how involved the community really is in this sort of event.
A good question. I don't have any firm data. I do believe we do have an estimate somewheres, but anecdotally as well, we just spoke internally that it didn't seem to have the one rush that we had last year, for example, but much more sustained participation. So first thought is that it was up from recent years, but I can get you a better figure for next time.
I do believe the community lifestyles in the past did help in that area, so we can always ask them if they have any stats. But very good questions. I'll ask for a motion, please. Councillor Ryan, or Deputy Mayor Ryan. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mayor Dahl. I move that the Chief Administrative Officer report be accepted for information.
Thank you. Next time we'll have to turn your sign so I can see the deputy. It's a new deputy. I'll call for the vote. Those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Now we are on correspondence, please, page 133, item 7A. Motion on the floor thank you, Councillor Walsh.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that correspondence and information reporting ending September 11th, 2023 be received for information.
Does anyone have questions? Very good. I'll call for the vote. Those in favor? That's carried. Well, thank you very much. We will be moving into a closed session. And at this time, I will just make a note for our viewers that when council goes into a closed session for continued participation in the virtual council meeting, stay online in the live stream meeting platform, and the meeting stream will be replaced by a graphic and music will play. And when the music stops, the meeting will be reconvened. If you are unable to do that, please check our Town of Old's website. I will ask for a motion, please, to move in closed. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I make the motion. Council go into a closed session at 2:35 PM under FOIP Section 17, disclosure harmful to business interests of a third party related to the Olds Fiber Limited Board of Directors, with all present remaining.
Thank you very much, Councillor Wilson. I will call for the vote. Those in favor? That is carried. Thank you.
Feeling the heat of high energy bills this summer? Cool down with Direct Energy's lowest fixed rates this year, plus up to $250 cash back. Stop overpaying for your energy and start saving today. Sign up is easy at directenergy.ca.
Rob talks a lot. Ask him how to set the thermostat and he could turn it into a 4-hour podcast. You don't just set a thermostat. Mention sports, what the Rangers lack is defense. But ask him about prostate cancer and like many men, he's not quite up to speed, despite prostate cancer being one of the most common cancers in men. Really, if you're over 50, it's time to talk to your doctor about your prostate cancer risk. Likewise, if you're a black man or of African descent over 40, or if your family has a history of prostate cancer. Find out more at Movember.com/prostate cancer.
calling all producers and beat makers. Are you ready to make some music that's as unique as you are? I'm the Soundtrap Sampler, your ultimate tool for creating your own one-of-a-kind instruments. Slam the door, and I'll create this. Or record dripping water, and I'll create this. So, with me, you can create any kind of instrument, out of anything. Tweak the sound and save your unique label instrument in Soundtrap's online music studio. It's super easy. Tap the banner to start on your next track with me today. Soundtrap, your everywhere studio.
There's no rush to switch to a better electricity rate from Encore by Epcor, unless, you like to save money. And time is money, so why wait? If you're already an Epcor customer, switch to power from Encore by Epcor today and start saving straight away. Same electricity, lower rate. You could save hundreds of dollars this year like thousands of our customers who already made the switch. Learn how at switchtoencore.com.
Customers are free to purchase natural gas or electricity services from a retailer of their choice. For a list of retailers, visit ucahelps.alberta.ca or call 310-4822 toll-free.
Are you ready for the chance to win 100,000 Aeroplan points? Link your Aeroplan and Starbucks rewards accounts and turn your Starbucks favorites into Aeroplan points and contest entries for your chance to win. What are you waiting for? Let's make this a September to remember. Visit aeroplan.com/September for official link, earn, and entry details. Contest closes September 30, 2023. No purchase necessary. Legal residents of Canada, 18 and older.
With Kubota, you get compact size and unbeatable value. For a limited time, get Kubota's lineup of compact tractors for 0% financing for up to 84 months. Plus, save up to $1,500 in select models. See your Kubota dealer for details.
What's the hottest offer of the season? Direct Energy's 365 Days of Summer Sale. Lock in their lowest fixed rates this year, plus up to $250 cash back, and enjoy savings all year round. Sign up in minutes at directenergy.ca.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brene Brown. Welcome to the Unlocking Us podcast. Episodes of Unlocking Us will drop every Wednesday. Some episodes of the new podcast will be conversations with the people who are teaching me, challenging me, confusing me, and maybe even ticking me off a little bit. Some days I'll just talk directly to you about what I'm learning and how it's changing the way I think and show up.
Unlocking Us is a Spotify exclusive. You can listen to it for free. Find me on Spotify. Appreciate it.
You deserve nonstop music. Why not let Spotify Premium serve up the music you love to listen to, ad-free and uninterrupted? If you're new to Premium, there's still time to get 3 months for free. Then it's just $10.99 a month and you can cancel anytime. Terms apply. Tap the banner to learn more.
Welcome back. We are going to continue on with our Rise and Report portion of our agenda at this time. And I would ask Councillor Blatz, please, to make a motion.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that council appoint Peter Taylor to the OFL Board of Directors for a 3-year term effective October 1st, 2023.
Thank you for that, Councillor Blatz. I will now ask council for a motion. All those in favor? Or, thank you, a vote, thank you. Very well. Thank you for your patience, everyone, if you're returning, and thank you, council. I adjourn the meeting now at 3:19 p.m.